People need leaders. They need leaders. And we all have the capability of being a leader. As a matter of fact, whether you realize it or not, you are a leader. Even if you don't have the leadership title, you're a leader. You influence others, you're a leader. People watch you when you're the leader. They watch you, they learn from you how they should act. They look to you for examples of what's right behavior. They admire you. They even talk about you at their dinner table. It's true. They tell their family, you know what my crazy boss did today? They're talking about you. So that whole people side of leadership is something that we want to focus on and enjoy. I tell people that, I think that the people side, the people that we have on our team are the most valuable resource that we have. And at the same time, maybe the most troublesome. So today we're going to focus on the people side, the job of the boss. Let's start with this. I have people who are confused sometimes between, what is the boss? Is that the manager? Is that the leader? What is the boss? And what's really the job? And it's interesting when I ask people this question, and I'll ask you now, wherever you are. And if you want to turn on your camera, we'd love to see you. You're welcome to do that because I love looking at you. So you're welcome to do that. I want to ask you now to tell me, like, if you were face to face with me and you were saying, okay, this is what I think is the definition of a boss. This is the definition. What would you say? And just think about it. What would be your definition? Usually when I ask this, I get some really great responses and usually kind of long, because when you think about a boss, there's a lot that goes into being a boss. There's a lot. So when you try to define the job of a boss, it's not that easy. But what if I said, I want you to do it in 7 words or less? Wouldn't that be exciting? Could you define the job of the boss through 7 words or less? Well, good news, we only have an hour today, so I did it for you. Job of the boss. This is Lorna Kibbe's definition: to get the work done through others. That's the job of the boss, to get the work done through others. Truly, when you think about the work of a leader, there's absolutely nothing that doesn't involve people, right? I mean, the whole point of being the boss is that you have a mission, you have goals, you have things that you have to accomplish, and you can't do that all by yourself. I mean, you have to have people to help you with that. If you could do it all by yourself, then, just do it. You don't need a team. You don't need people. Just do it. That's not very realistic, right? If you were the boss, you're the boss, and you're thinking of all the fundamentals of leadership. And what would you say is most important? What's the most important parts of leadership? What comes to mind? When I'm thinking about it, and I'm speaking for you because we're on a webinar, but, feel free to throw it in chat or, speak out. But I'm thinking vision is important. That the boss, they have to make sure that we have a vision and that we know where we're going. They have to define that for us. They do strategic planning. That's an important part. Oh, they do like performance appraisals. They need to inspire us. Let's see, communication is a big part of it. They have to be able to help us organize. Team building. Team building is a big part of it. Decision making. They need to be able to make decisions. Gosh, I could go on and on. There's so much involved in being a boss, right? That's what the whole book is about. All these guides to these different things: appreciation, empowerment, feedback, meetings with staff, communicating, momentum. Oh my goodness, it goes on and on. But I challenge you. I challenge you to think of any leadership task that doesn't depend on people. Are there any of those that don't depend on people? Everything that a leader does is dependent on their people. So the golden thread, people. Are you ready for the big truth? Here it is. The people side can't be denied. that funny? I loved it. I walked around all weekend going, the people's side can't be denied. My husband thinks I'm crazy, but that's nothing new. So today, you're going to receive awareness and understanding of that people side and why it can't be denied. We're going to give you some solid steps to use to make sure that you can really help take, I don't want to say take advantage of, but really use to the max your most important resource, which is people, and help them to be the best. To me, the sign of a great boss is that their people are performing beyond even their own expectations for themselves and just loving what they do. So you'll learn some solid tips for that. And also, I'm going to give you like an opportunity to take action. I'm going to give you some suggested steps for taking action right away, and you can decide which ones to take forward. But, you know, just a little quality message here, well, qualifier, I guess you call it. This is great that you're here today. I'm so happy that you're here. But you got to go into this with the mindset that you're going to do something with it, right? So I'm going to give you a jump start today. I'm going to give you some action steps that you can choose from to use going forward. But as we're going through everything, think about this from your own perspective. What is it that you want to do when this session is over? It's going to make a difference, okay? All right, so we would really love to have an opportunity right now to have this huge discussion about all the basics of leadership, just like I was kind of brainstorming before without you. And if we did, believe it or not, I think that everything we can think of would fall into these three categories. Because first, as leaders, we have to conceive. We have to make sure that we understand the mission, the vision, our expectations, and our priorities. Only once we understand that can we expect people to climb on board with us, right? So that's all of the stuff right there, and conceive about vision and mission and setting expectations and priorities that you were probably thinking of. Once they're on board with us, we want them to believe in what we believe and to commit to accomplishing those goals that we have to accomplish to complete our mission, vision, expectations, and so on. So getting people on board, that's the whole believe part. And only when everyone is aligned and going in the same direction and everybody believes in what we're doing and everybody's trying to accomplish that, can we achieve. And achieve is kind of a big deal, right? I mean, it's about results. And after all, really, this is all about results, right? And we can't accomplish that without people. So let's use this as our model and go through these things and see what we can do to really capitalize and help our people using this model. Conceive, believe, achieve. And we'll start with conceive. And in conceive, you know, conceive is to bring a thought or an idea into being. So this is understanding your role. We're going to start with that. And this is really a lot about self-awareness. Have you ever been on an airplane when, you know, they tell you in the emergency procedures, if the oxygen mask drops, put yours on first before you help anyone else? That's really what conceive is all about. You have to start first with you, with your mindset, understanding what your vision is, what your expectations are. What do you want people to do? Where are you trying to lead them? So this is a lot about self-awareness, setting your goals, your vision before we get into anything else. You got to get your head straight. Do you even want to be a leader? Do you even want to be the boss? You know, there are people who take boss jobs because it's a logical next step. Doesn't mean that that's really what they want to do or they're good at it. So conceive is about kind of getting your head around the role that you have and understanding things yourself before you go out there and try to get anybody else to get on this flight with you. You got to know where you're going before you can get others to believe and go on that flight with you. So let's talk about first you as a leader. Okay, first as a leader. Or wait, maybe you're a manager. Are you a leader or a manager? That's the first question. Leader versus manager. Do you think there's a difference in a leader and a manager? What do you see as the big difference? Have you ever thought about it? What's the difference between a leader and a manager? It's kind of funny because in workshops when I do this and I ask for a show of hands, and that wouldn't do too good here because I mostly see a show of names and no cameras. But, how many of you think you're a leader? How many of you think you're a manager? And usually more people say they're managers than leaders. Let's look at the definitions and see if we can kind of figure this out. Okay, so these are the Webster definitions here. Leader versus manager. Leadership, the ability to influence, motivate, and direct others to obtain desired objectives. Okay. The ability to influence, motivate, and direct others to obtain desired objectives. Okay, that's like getting the work done through others. All right. Management, planning, organizing, leading, and controlling the people working in an organization and the ongoing set of tasks and activities they perform. These are the basic tenets of management that we've always heard. Planning, organizing, leading, controlling the people working in an organization and the ongoing set of tasks and activities they perform. Well, I would say what I'm seeing here is a difference between kind of people and tasks, because management speaks specifically to tasks and leadership more the people side. So managers by definition focus on tasks and leaders by definition focus on people. So there it is. Leaders focus on people, managers focus on tasks. Now we have the real definition. So that raises this question: which one's better? Would you rather be a manager or would you rather be a leader? That's a good question. Do you have the answer? What do you think for you? Because the truth is, one is not better than the other. It really depends. It's situational. It depends. An organization needs both great leadership and great management to succeed. Leaders who can't manage can be disastrous. Why do I say that? Because leaders might be really good at being great visionaries and big idea people and big picture. But if they don't know how to do the mechanics of the organization, how to actually get the work done and get the results, we'll be up here in vision land forever and not necessarily get anything actually done. Have you ever known a leader like that? I have, like a leader that's so visionary and so out there and amazing, but they can't do the basic management tasks. And guess what? The opposite can also be true. We can have somebody who is a great manager, but has no leadership skills. That's not good either. Great managers are going to see that tasks get done, but they're going to be so caught up in getting those tasks done that they're never going to take time to imagine how we could do things better, or to innovate new solutions, or look at new ways that the system is being impacted, because they're so stuck there in just the management tasks of the thing. So neither one is really better. Leaders who only see the future, they lose sight of what we need to do to get there, right? And managers who only focus on right now, they lose sight of purpose. Let me say that again. Leaders who only see the future lose sight of what we need to do to get there. And managers who can only focus on right now, they lose sight of purpose. See, leaders have mostly future vision, where managers are focused on now. We need both of those things. Leaders are very optimistic. They're always excited about what's coming next. And you could say that managers are more realistic. We need both of those. Leaders, they listen, they come out, they listen, they're very good with the communication stuff, and then they speak. But managers know that in order to get this done right now, I need to speak and then listen. Do this now. This is what we need to do, right? I hope you're starting to see a sense already that if you're too far one way or the other, it's not really a good thing for the organization. Because actually, if you're a leader, you're a manager. And if you're a manager, you're a leader. You don't really get to choose. You're both. You have to be in both of those roles. So the goal is to have a boss who knows the difference between leadership and management and can employ whichever skill set is needed at that point in time. That's really the goal. A great boss understands there's a difference between management and leadership, and there's a time to use leadership and a time to use management, and they're able to jump in and do whichever is needed depending on the situation. So that's the goal. If you're not familiar with the differences, with those characteristics of manager versus leaders, of the actual skill set, I'd urge you to become more familiar with that. There's a chapter in the book on it, and you can get in touch with me, but understanding the difference is important. Actually, there's a great activity in the book, which SBDC has been offering to those of you who participate in some fashion. There's a great activity in the book where it actually gives you a list of management skills versus leadership skills and encourages you to go through and check off which one you're doing more. Which one are you likely to do? And the reason for that is because it is very possible to get stuck. There are people who get stuck in either leadership land or management land, as I call it. And being stuck is not good, okay? I want to tell you this story about someone who I really admire. He was a pastor in my church. He was such a visionary leader. It was mind-blowing. The stuff that he would come up with, the imagination he had, the innovation to lead us and help us in our faith. I mean, he was, wow, what a leader, what a visionary, incredible. But he was so stuck in leadership land that one Sunday, the person who normally came in and turned on the lights was sick. He didn't know how to turn the lights on. If the bills had to be paid and he had to do it, they wouldn't have been paid because he had no understanding or awareness of the actual management of the operation. He was so stuck in leadership land. And what's funny is this particular pastor had been in a series of churches, and usually small churches. He moved around a lot. And, in retrospect, I really think that the reason for that is probably because small churches, like Jennifer and I were having a discussion earlier about small offices and how many roles you have to take on when you're in a small situation. Small churches don't necessarily have an operations manager and a visionary leader. This one visionary leader, the pastor, has to do all of it, has to understand all of it. And that may be why he was moving around, because he didn't have that total support system. Now, we have leaders who are great visionaries, and as long as they have that support system and managers that can take care of those tasks for them, cool. Multi-million-dollar companies probably have that. But for us being entrepreneurs every day, we usually have to do it all. And being stuck in management land is not really a good, pretty place either. Being stuck in management land, and I've known some managers who were stuck in management land. And the reason why I would say it's not a good place is because what I see when that happens is kind of someone who is like putting in the work and maybe doing a good job of it, but really has no hope for the future. Nothing really to look forward to. He doesn't, or she doesn't really have the vision of where the organization is going next and how it will grow, because they're very bogged down every day in making sure that they do the tasks that they have to accomplish, right? So they get stuck in management land. So that's not really a good place to be either. And here's why. Check this out. Why leaders struggle. People versus tasks. Okay. So we have this grid. We can say, all right, so first of all, we have managers who are low on people and low on tasks. They're not really concerned about people. They're not really concerned about tasks. You can just write them off. They're not going to last. They're out of here. They're not going to make it as a manager or a leader. They're not going to make it. Now you have some people who are really high on people, but low on tasks. And those are our leaders who are stuck in leadership land. That's not really great either for the organization. Because think about it. It's great to be high on people. I love that they're taking care of their people. But if they don't take care of the tasks too, no results. We've already said we have to have results. I mean, that's what it's all about. So yeah, that's probably not going to work long term. We have people who are like leaders who are like, the people are nice, but what really matters is that we accomplish bottom line, on time, on budget, let's go, let's get this done. And that's good because they're really driving for results. But we've also already agreed that the people side can't be denied. I mean, you can't accomplish these things without the people. So in the long term, that's not going to work either. We have to have leaders and managers, bosses who are high on people and high on tasks. So you can see how that works. Here's something shocking for you. Look at this. About half of all workers surveyed through Gallup News Business Journal strongly indicated that they don't know what's expected of them at work. Only about half said that they feel like they know what's expected. Almost half said they don't know what's expected of them at work. What? How can we possibly not know what's expected of us at work? I mean, the thing is that even if employees are energized and motivated, if they don't have clear expectations, they work hard. They work hard. It doesn't mean they don't work hard. It's just they're working hard on the wrong things. They're not driving towards the results that we know we need. So yeah, they work really hard, but how are we going to advance these key initiatives to create value for the organization if they're not really clear on what their expectations are? Right? All right, so this is the conceive piece. This is like getting your head around things, getting things straight before you even go and start bringing your people in. You got to know what you're expecting. You got to know what your mission is, what your vision is. You got to be clear before you go forward. I have a couple of suggestions for you for action steps here. So I would encourage you to choose one of these and write it down, or come up with one for yourself. But you got to take action going forward. This is important if you want to be a better boss. This is something we have to really pay attention to. We have to take action. So here's a couple of ideas for you. The first one is to give this whole idea some thought. Are you a leader or a manager? Get the book, look at that exercise that's in there, go through it, and evaluate whether you might be stuck. Because if you're putting all your check marks in one column or the other, that's an indication that you're not giving enough to the other side. If you're sitting there going, well, wait, sometimes I do this and sometimes I do this, I'd have to put that check mark in the middle. That's what we're hoping for, is that you recognize that there's a time to be a leader, there's a time to be a manager, but you're still the same person. So that's one idea. Another idea for you is this. Here's the question. Are your employees in half of all the workers who don't know what's expected of them at work? Here's an idea. How about you ask them? I mean, that was a simple survey, so what if you did some kind of an anonymous survey, or however you feel comfortable doing it, and see if your people really understand what's expected of them. You might be surprised to see the response on that. One of the hardest things I ever did as a leader was one of those, 360 appraisals where, all your employees give you feedback. It wasn't something that my organization was doing. It was something that I wanted to do. And I did it. I put it out there. I let them answer anonymously. Man, that was rough. They told me the truth. They did. And it was tremendously valuable. So yeah, there's a couple of ideas for you. I'm going to pause for a minute because I see a whole lot of comments in chat, Jennifer. Is there anything here I need to know? Because I haven't been monitoring chat. I've just been talking.
We've been engaging a little bit, kind of commenting on things that you said and what we thought leaders are and what we look for. Integrity being one of the things that someone really, appreciates as being a leader, and just, some side comments on that. But I don't think there's a direct question that we need you to answer.
Okay.
I had noted something on page 15 of the book that I thought was interesting when I was listening to you, because that part about sometimes leaders have difficulty assessing the intensity at the ground level. Mm-hmm. And on that page, if someone else has the book, they might want to continue reading that and going through the process of it. We've just been engaging in some side things. Does anyone have any other comment that we need to?
Try to show the camera. There's a whole list here of the competencies for leader versus manager that you can look at here in the book.
Right.
Yeah, very helpful. Okay. All right, let me go on. And, if anyone has questions, put them in the chat box, because I'm going to come back at the end and just pause this and to answer questions. But I saw 13 comments. I was like, whoa, I better just check in, right?
We're enjoying your message.
All right, cool. Let's go on. Remember, the people side can't be denied. You're going to be saying that all day, just like me, because it really rhymes. It's really fun. So now that we have gone through the conceive cycle and we got our heads on straight, we got our oxygen mask on, we're ready to jump in there and get our people in here with us, get us on this flight and get us where we want to go. We have to talk about believing, to have confidence in the truth, the existence or reliability of something. See, if your people don't really believe in what you're doing, forget about it. You're not going to results, right? You're not going to make it to results if they don't really believe in it, especially in today's work environment. A lot of you already know this. If your people don't believe in your purpose, they don't believe that you're trying to do good for the world, they're not interested. They're going to go find an organization where they feel good about what they're doing. This is why you have to have it straight in the beginning. You have to believe in it. You have to be passionate so that you can spread that and help them to believe and be passionate too. So it's about clarity, buy-in, commitment, and alignment. Let me show you what I mean here. Clarity. I love this. Henry David Thoreau. Could a greater miracle take place than for us to look through each other's eyes for an instant? That probably says everything I need to say about communication, in 30 seconds or less. But communication is just a huge part of being a leader, manager, of being the boss. Making sure that you are redundantly communicating with your employees. Redundant communication, that's an interesting term. The reason I call it redundant is because in today's business environment, it's very important for us to communicate messages in different ways. I have a client who I used to send like really well thought out email messages to. And to tell you the truth, it took some time to write those messages, laying everything out, making sure everything was perfect and it was written well. But they never answered any of my messages. And frankly, it was very annoying because I spent time trying to get it right. So finally, one day, out of desperation, I picked up my phone and I sent him a text and said, I sent you an email message. Did you see it? And I got a response immediately. Freaked me out because I've been sending all these messages for the past 3 weeks and got nothing. Immediately I got a response and the person said, oh, I don't read my email at all, but I respond to text. What do you need? See, lesson learned for me. It's like some people don't read their email. Some people don't read text. Some people don't carry their phone everywhere they go, including the bathroom, right? Some people don't do that while they drive. So being able to deliver messages through different mediums in different ways means that you have a better chance of your message getting through. And this is also about dialogue. Having dialogue with your employees, not just conversations. Going into a conversation and saying, hey, Brandy, this is what I think and this is what we're going to do is very different than saying, hey, Brandy, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And having, a dialogue, a conversation which we both participate instead of just telling people what we think. So clarity, making sure that you're very clear in what you're thinking, which is the conceive part, so that you can effectively communicate that to others is very important. If people don't have an opportunity to weigh in, how can you expect them to buy in? If you've ever heard me present anywhere, you've probably heard me say this before. It's one of my all-time favorite quotes. It's from Patrick Lencioni, because I just believe in this so much. People need to feel valued and they want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. And they want you to ask them. What amazes me is sometimes I see leaders who have such talented people, like, oh my goodness, their hiring is killer. They're getting great people. And then they don't ask them. They just don't ask for their opinions. They just don't use their skills. They don't delegate to them. They don't bring them in on things. They don't use participatory management to really use their abilities to help them lead and manage. So consensus is a big part of this. And I think people misunderstand consensus. Like if you have a team and you're making a decision, giving everybody a chance on that team to speak up and talk about the decision is really important. And of course, there's a process for that, which is in the book too. There's a process for consensus. But the important thing is, to summarize it, before you leave a meeting where you've made a decision, stop and ask each person if they can support that decision going forward, not if they agree. Because if you say, do you agree, what you're going to get is head nods, let's get out of here, right? And then they're going to walk outside the door and Sonia's going to say, that is the stupidest thing I ever heard. I can't believe these people went along with that. I'm not doing that. Sorry, Sonia, just making that up. Or Sarah might actually sabotage the whole thing. Sorry, Sarah, just making it up. But the point is that if you're not sure that everyone can support it, and that means stopping to say, Kathy, you kind of rolled your eyes when you said you would support that. So tell me, what are you thinking, to make sure that everyone feels valued and everyone has input. Only when everyone has a chance to weigh in can you expect them to buy in. And buy-in is an important part, because if you don't have buy-in, you can't get commitment. Once we buy in, now we have to commit to it. So now we're getting everybody to participate in developing the objectives that we're going to meet based on the goals that we need to meet. And they develop the plan. They help in developing and agreeing to the plan for monitoring progress. And you can see where that leads if your team is helping you to develop and agree to that plan because they've all committed, then it becomes less of a problem for a leader to follow through on these things because they'll actually help each other. Peers will begin to talk to peers and say, hey, we were in this meeting. This is what we agreed to do. This was our plan. I need this from you before I can do that. How do you come in? Can I help? It just changes everything. It begins to change culture. So getting that commitment, so that everybody believes in what they're doing, everybody believes in where we're going, so that people will ask for help in solving problems instead of trying to hide it from you. They'll build on strengths, and this really helps to build everyone's self-esteem. It's important that we've all had a chance to weigh in, that we're clear on what we're doing, that we've bought into it, and now we commit to it. And finally, that we're all going in the same direction. There's a good idea. That we're all headed for the same thing. Alignment. Everybody's working on the same thing. Like I said, before, this is similar. If everyone's not focused on the same thing, if everyone's not sure what they're working on, if they don't know what that main thing is that they're working on, that means that everybody will still be working hard, just not necessarily on anything that will deliver results, which is kind of the point of it all, right? So alignment, getting everybody going in the same direction. So are you ready for some possible action steps for yourself on this? Like I said, you can come up with some of your own, but here's a couple I would suggest. The first thing is just to ask your staff a question. And the question is, and I would do this individually, maybe even anonymously. The question is, what is our main thing? Do you think everyone's clear on what that even is? You may surprise yourself. This is one thing that I commonly do when I go into work with a team of employees. I'll ask them individually, so tell me, what's your main thing? And a lot of times I have to define what a main thing is. I'm like, your main thing is the thing that's most important right now that everybody's working on. And I get different answers. They're not even clear on what the main thing is. How can we be focused on results if we're not even clear what's most important right now? And granted, the main thing's going to change. The main thing's going to change. It's going to change, after you complete this main thing, there's going to be another main thing. But understanding what's the priority right now, that's what we're talking about here. So what's the main thing? How about you just ask your staff? Well, you know what? We'll take it a step further. Ask yourself, what is our main thing? Do you even know? If not, go back to conceive and repeat. Because first you have to know before you can get your team on board with that. And here's another action step that you could possibly take. How about this? Next time you make a team decision, ensure you have commitment by testing consensus. And by testing consensus, that's exactly what I was talking about a few minutes ago, where you go person to person and say, hey, Brandy, can you support this when we leave the room? You feel like of all the things we talked about, this is the best decision. Can you support this going forward? And Brandy can say, well, I still think my idea is better, but I see why we're doing this. And yes, I can support it. And only when I get that yes from every single person, can I ensure that everyone's going to be committed to it. So there you go. There's a couple of ideas for action steps. Hope that helps you, or maybe come up with one of your own, whichever, but define what you can do for yourself to really use this going forward, because the people side can't be denied. And that takes us to achieve. This is results. Successfully bring about or reach a desired result by effort, skill, or courage. I mean, results is kind of a big deal, right? Because that's really what it's all about, is getting results. As Thomas Edison put it, vision without execution is hallucination. And see, this was the problem that my pastor had. He had great vision, but he didn't know how to execute. So we never really got anywhere with any of his great innovations, because he didn't know the management side. He didn't know how to actually put it into action. So vision without execution is hallucination. I love it. One of the big things here is empowering your staff. And we talked a little bit about this last week, and we're going to have a whole session on empowerment and delegation, that kind of thing. So I think you'll really enjoy that. That's part of the series. This is from Ken Blanchard. I love this. Empowerment is about letting go so that others can get going. I think that's a great definition of empowerment. About letting go so that others can get going. And, we're talking about trusting your employees. Like I said, you're doing your best to hire great people. They come with all these great skills. So let them do it. Trust them, empower them, and set up controls that you've agreed on together, so that you can be sure things are going in the direction that you need them to go. One thing I often find is that great leader managers, great bosses, are really good at the visionary side, really good at big picture, and not always good at like the planning part, strategic planning, and the detail work, that kind of thing. But if you have those people on your team, you're okay. You don't have to be able to do everything. You just have to know it has to be done. But it's perfectly okay, to go to Mary and say, Mary, I need a strategic plan. That's not my strong point. I just drives me nuts. Can you come up with a format for me? Can you help me to put this together? Mary will be delighted, because that's her strength. That's awesome. So it's perfectly okay to use the strengths of your team, empower them to help you. Have you heard of strength-based focus? When it comes to developing people, there's more to gain by building on existing strengths than on trying to make good on their weaknesses. I've learned this the hard way. I don't know about you, but I'll tell you a brief story about an employee I had who was the worst. I mean, the worst employee ever. It was one of those situations where she was transferred to me because I was in government. We didn't fire people. We just moved them around, if anybody can relate to that. But she was really dead weight. I mean, talk about the change. She was hanging on the end of a dead weight, really bringing the team down. But I found out through kind of an accident about one amazing skill that she had that was crazy great. She had an ability to organize things quickly and efficiently in a way that nobody else seemed to be able to do. So I just put her on the task of doing that for the team to get her started. And she killed it. Man, she was so good at that. What began to happen is her skills began to improve as her confidence improved. The team began to respect and admire her because she was doing something so valuable for the team. And pretty soon, all those areas where she was so deficient began to improve. You see, a lot of times what we do as leaders is when we have somebody who has those weaknesses, here's how it goes. We have this person, they have these strengths and weaknesses. And these strengths are great, but these weaknesses are killing in time. They got to bring these weaknesses up. We got to work on this, so we hammer them about this. We spend 80% of our time trying to get them to do better. And finally they get better. They're satisfactory. Oh, but look what happened to the strength side. It's shoot. We've now developed a really good mediocre employee instead of really taking advantage of those strengths. So strengths-based management is really important for us here, especially when it comes to getting results, to use the strengths of all those people we have around them. What you're going to find is that if people are using their strengths in their jobs regularly, they're going to rock it. I mean, think about you. It's like, can you do things when it's not your natural strength? Yeah, I'm a great example of this. Like, I love developing programs like this and doing them. I love it. I'll sit down to write a program. Well, this actually happened this weekend. I had this program all written, but I had this idea about the people side cannot be denied. So Saturday morning, I started working on this. I didn't eat. I didn't take a shower. It wasn't until Sunday at 3 o'clock when I emerged and went, oh man, this is cool. I love this. I had so much energy, even though I smelled bad and hadn't eaten for days and, all that stuff. But I was excited. I was invigorated because I was using my strengths. But then I had a customer who needed a correction on an invoice. Man, that accounting stuff. Oh gosh, oh man. So I had to open QuickBooks. It should have taken 15 minutes. I think it took 2 days. Well, probably 2 hours. It was awful because it's just not my strength. Did I do it? Yeah. Did I do it well? Yes. Did I like it? Not for a second. I ate an entire cake during the processing of that invoice. We won't even talk about, the beverage side. It was grueling, but okay, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm saying. It's like the things that you're really good at, that you enjoy, that are your natural strengths. It's just energy. It gives you energy, and you enjoy so much the work that you're really good at it. And when you're forced to work in that area where you're not as strong with your natural weaknesses, it's hard. It's not as fun to like your work. So as a boss, that's one of the things to look at. Are your people being able to use their natural strengths? Are they having an opportunity to use those? Sometimes I've found that I had people working on the wrong things. And when I put them in things that were more about their natural strengths, they were really a great employee. I thought they were when I hired them. It's just, I wasn't doing a good job of helping them to figure out what they could do best. So make good on their strengths and try to make the weaknesses irrelevant. Constructive feedback is an important part of this. Many leaders, they like a harmonious work environment. I mean, who doesn't, right? We like for things to be good. And we believe that the best thing we can do for our team, for our business, is to just make sure that we're optimistic and everything's happy, and so sometimes we ignore problems. That's a big mistake. That's a big mistake. You're not going to get the results that you need if you're ignoring problems, especially as the boss. You have to hit these things head on. And constructive feedback is a really great way to do that. Knowing how to deliver feedback constructively instead of destructively is an important part of this. So, just being really specific about what you observe, talk about behavior, not what you feel, having that two-way conversation, doing some coaching with the person, being supportive and encouraging to them. Do you know what the #1 demotivator is in the US? In every business, every book that you read, every survey that you read, everywhere. Just Google it today. You'll find out the #1 demotivator in the US is this: my boss tolerates poor performance. That's what it is. My boss tolerates poor performance. So I'm working my tail off, and you're letting somebody else over here just get away with half of it, and you don't do anything about it. Yeah, that means that you're failing to address problems. And if you want results, you've got to address those problems. It's not always easy, but constructive feedback is a really good and positive way to try to address some of those things. So learn more about doing constructive feedback and make sure that you're addressing these problems when you see them. Harmony is good, but it's not going to last if there are problems lying under the surface. You got to stay on top of it. And let's talk for a minute about praise, because this is really an important part of you do when we talk about results. And I just want to be clear that, when we talk about results and praise, I'm not talking about at the end of talking about every single day, every single person. Everybody wants to feel valued. Everybody wants to be appreciated. the thing that's probably one of the most troubling things I hear sometimes from bosses, they'll say they're doing what they're expected to do and they're being paid for it. So why should I go out of my way to praise them? You know, at evaluation time, I'll let them know how they did. Oh man, that hurts me, hurts. People just, they need to feel valued. These are people, you know, so yeah, they're working within their job description, but still, you know, what's wrong with taking time to say, hey, you know what, Heather, yesterday you did this for me. And I really appreciate that you went out of your way to see that client when I know you had a million other things to do and you saw that I was really behind schedule. Thanks for that. You know, being really specific with people, telling them what they did that you appreciate. You can find something if you look for it, but do be specific, because, you know, sometimes if you say something like, hey, Kathy, I saw what you did, thanks. And Kathy's going, uh-oh, what did you see? This is bad. This is really bad. Yeah, sometimes it comes across as sarcasm and comes across in the wrong way when you're not specific. But look for opportunities to offer praise to your employees. And, you know, while I'm at it, let's just make a plug for the rest of the world. What about your significant other? What about your kids? What about your friends? What about the person that checked you out at the store? You know, offering praise to people is just something that's really important and something that we overlook. A few days ago, I was in a restaurant, and there was an employee standing there who looked like she didn't know what she was doing. And there was a terrible problem because there was no toilet paper in the restroom. So I looked at her and said, listen, there's no toilet paper in the ladies' room, none, zero, zippo. Somebody should do something. This lady went out of her way. She was new. She didn't have a key to the supply cabinet. She snuck into the men's room and got a roll of toilet paper and put it in the ladies' room. I mean, she just went above and beyond trying to help. And, you know, you could see that she was very new and wasn't sure what to do. But when I was getting ready to leave the restroom, she came to me and said, I just want you to know that I've taken care of the problem. I found out how to get the key to the supply cabinet, and there's now a good stock of paper in both restrooms. And I just wanted you to know that I took care of it, and I appreciate you letting me know. I thought that was amazing, you know. So I went to the manager who was standing there and I said, I want you to know I'm really impressed with this employee of yours, because this is what she did. He gave me a free sandwich. Wasn't that nice? But also she got some kudos. And just taking time to say thank you to people and appreciate them. I know I'm spending too long on that, but I think it's so important, and we don't think about it every day. And I want you to think about that every day. You know, everybody that you see, any opportunity to celebrate and say thank you. And I just think that's a really important part of being a kind person that we all want and need to be. So here's a couple of steps for you, action steps. Let's see what you think. Here's my suggestions. Take time to list and assess the strengths of your individual employees. Now, that's not an easy task. And yet, when you really think about it, it's pretty easy to pick out the real strengths of your employees. If you're just not sure at all, just ask them to tell you a story. Ask them to tell you a story about the project they're working on, how it's going, or a time when they did a project and did a great job at it. That's a great interview question. You know, tell me about a job that you did, a project that you completed that you really feel good about. Tell me how it went. How did you set it up? What was the result? And see what they say. Did they talk about, I enjoyed the planning part of it because I had everything so well organized that it just went like a machine. Okay, so you know where their strengths are there. They like details, they like planning and organizing, right? Or do they say, well, once we got everything figured out how we were going to do it, I went in front of 3 different groups of people to talk to them about their opinions. And I wanted to make sure I had their input. Then, you know, probably their skills are more in the people side. So just listening to a story, you can kind of hear what people's real strengths are. So maybe that would be something you want to do, is consider whether your employees are routinely using their strengths at work. If you've ever done a survey, you know, an empowerment survey with your staff, you know, that's one of the top questions we ask. Are employees having an opportunity to use their strengths every day? Because that's a definite indicator of people feeling engaged. An engagement survey, definite question there. So that might be something you could try. Here's another one. Find ways to show appreciation to those around you every day. And like I said, I know that sounds simple and I'm really emphasizing it, but gosh, it's missing in the world. And this is my plug to try to get it back. Really make an effort. One manager that I worked with was so bad at this that we found this little trick, and I don't think I originated it. We found it in a book or something, but gave him 5 quarters, and his job was to put them in his left pocket. And by the end of the day, he had to move all 5 quarters to his right pocket. And the only way he could move a quarter was if he told somebody thank you, that he appreciated them, if he found something to praise them for. And it has to be genuine, by the way. You can't make this up. I mean, it has to be sincere and real. And he, the first day he called me and he said, I didn't move any quarters. I'm like, why not? Honestly, I don't think about it. That's the point. So we had to work with him to help him get in a little habit. Another manager that I worked with on this appreciation thing, which I thought was brilliant. She bought for Christmas, for the holiday, for the new year, she gave every employee on her team, and I think there were 5, a jar of marbles. And each jar of marbles were unique in color. Like one employee got red marbles, one got blue, one got yellow, one got green, one got purple or something like that. And she challenged her team, every time somebody does something for you that you appreciate, I want you to go in with one of your marbles and say, hey, Brandy, thanks for letting me cut in front of you at the copy machine yesterday, and put it in Brandy's jar. And in 2 months, we're going to look at our marbles to see how mixed up they are. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So that worked well. It worked well. It was really interesting. So whatever you can do, I would suggest that as an action step. So in the description of the program, I told you, I said there's one thing that everybody craves, and we're going to talk about what that is. What do they crave? The one thing that everybody craves from you. What is the one thing? Well, let's stop and take questions, and then I'll tell you. Then I'll close.